seek out a better night's sleep. We find that many patients will go to antihistamines, sedatives, any number of ways to get a good night's sleep, when really what we want to do is pay attention to sleeping natural. And that means paying attention to the way your body's cells receive their signals. The first question I have for you is, what signals are you sending your cells? Each and every one of our cells has a clock in it. And that clock can give you a night like this, right? Or it can give you a night like this. So Dr. Matthew Walker, an expert in sleep medicine and sleep mechanics, mentions, I love this line, human beings are the only species that deprive themselves of sleep for no good reason, right? The idea here is we are often trying to do too much on too little sleep, and we're burning, as you've heard, the candle at both ends. We are not creating a space for ourselves to be healthy. In fact, we are depleting our batteries, our energy, our reserves, our savings accounts each and every day. 1 in 2 Americans, so better than 50% of the population, is trying to survive on 6 hours of sleep or less. There's a percentage of them that are trying to do it on even less. And even when faced with the literature, the research that says the total number of people that can do well metabolically, right, hormonally, physically, mentally, on 5 hours of sleep or night, oh, you guessed it, it's 0. And yet, do the math with me. Studies show that individuals that are wakeful for 17 to 18 hours on a regular basis, so consistently staying up for 17 to 18 hours and trying to get by on just a handful of hours of sleep, that their waist circumference goes up, that their blood sugars go up, that their insulin sensitivity goes down. You know what else goes down? Their libido, while their inflammation through C-reactive protein goes up. We find that individuals that live on a daily basis, day after day, on 17 to 18 hours of wakefulness, meaning that they're getting a total of 6 hours of sleep or less a night, are finding themselves with extra pounds at the end of a year, 14 pounds to be exact. That's just how important it is for us to pay attention to sleep. It's just how important it is for us to be working towards better sleep hygiene. And that's why I want to talk to you about what was really making the difference, and that is your internal clock. I'd mentioned that your cells have little clocks inside them, and those cells are trying to figure out daylight and nighttime. And so when we disrupt our internal clock by staying up too late, waking up too late, using artificial light to keep ourselves awake, or being in front of a computer screen or a digital device into wee hours of the night, we're not sending the right signals to our clock. And that is hormonally disruptive, right? Because most bodily function is built off of a clock or a fluctuation of hormones, a fluctuation of body temperature, a fluctuation of several things that initiate a better night's sleep, weight loss, even hunger or satiety signals. So it's important that we understand that we are not steady state. We cannot, like a machine, just keep going and going and going without there being some cost. And the cost is fantastic. The cost comes in the form of endocrine dysfunction. It comes in the form of premature aging. It comes in the form of low energy, low productivity. So it's important that we pay attention to this internal clock. And it's not just one, right? A lot of people refer to the heart as a ticker, right? That's not just what we're talking about. We're talking about each individual cell. Well, it doesn't have photoreceptors on it, so it doesn't legitimately, can't really tell if it's light or dark outside. Although you should know they've done studies to find out if cells do in fact have photoreceptors, because they are so rhythmic, right? Because they pay attention to these 12-hour cycles, like a clock, so much so that researchers looked in to find out if cells actually have some level of photoreceptivity so that they can tell when it's light or dark. Well, this circadian rhythm is what we're talking about, right? Again, you are not steady state, right? You do not just go, 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 chug, 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 right? You have to have periods of relaxation and recovery, as well as periods of building up and activity. It's these rhythms, these up and downs that we refer to as metabolism, the building up and the breaking down. That is metabolism, right? Well, the light and the dark, the recovery, the rest, and the activity. These are the rhythms that your cells are coordinating. And it is this symphony of your cells communicating with each other that manages a whole host of physiologic responses. These include hunger hormones, sleep hormones, blood sugar hormones, sex hormones, hormones that dictate your metabolism. So often people will turn to low calorie diets to lose weight when really what they need to be doing is turning down the hallway, take a right, and jump into that bed, right? Ultimately, people need to be getting a better night's sleep if they want to rein in those hormones. They want to rein in the excess weight that they may be gaining. The whole idea is to make sure that we pay attention to the body's natural cadence, its natural rhythm, its natural metabolism. And when we respect nature, everything else falls into place. The problem, however, I can appreciate is multifactorial. It is far reaching because we've learned bad habits. Not only have we learned bad habits, we've got a lot of stuff to get done. And so it's imperative that you understand that just a handful of days of impaired sleep, sleeping poorly. Now, do me a favor, take an inventory. How many days in the last 3 weeks could you say, I didn't sleep all that well? Now ask yourself, how many of those were consecutive days, right? Because it's important for us to take that personal stock and understand what our own insulation factors are. What are the things that are preventing you from getting a good night's sleep? It may be that you have too much stress. It may be that you have too much caffeine. It may be that you have too much sugar. It may mean that you don't have enough physical fitness in your life. Whatever it is, just a few days of impaired sleep, particularly a loss of slow wave sleep, right? This is at the fourth cycle of sleep that has been shown to have the biggest impact on deranged metabolism. Now, that deranged metabolism for different people kind of comes out different ways. For some people, it's inability to regulate their blood sugars. For others, it's inability to properly regulate their heart rate. For other individuals, it may be an inability to manage sex hormones or inflammation. There's a host of different ways that this impaired sleep leads to hormonal chaos or milieu. And so, what is the common thread? It's get a good night's sleep. So the question is, how do we do it without the antihistamines? How do we do it without sedatives? How do we do it without an interventional model, but more of a prevention model? Well, first, when it comes to prevention, I have to ask that you don't wait to do something. See, that slow wave sleep, that starts to decline as we age. And that is that reparative, that restorative sleep. But I think young individuals would be shocked to find out just how quickly they can start to see derangement in their slow wave sleep cycles. The decline of this deep sleep, as we refer to it, happens much earlier than you may think. Losses can occur as late as the mid or late 20s. By the time you're 30, you're starting to really go down that slippery slope. And by the time an individual reaches the age of 50, they've lost roughly 50%, right? The big 50 means a big 50 loss of deep wave sleep by the time an individual is 80. And I think that we can appreciate this because we've seen this happen in aging parents, in aging population, grandparents, maybe depending on your age, right? You've seen that they do not sleep as long as they did in younger years, right? That we start to see a decline in recovery, speed, and even productivity in some individuals. For some, it's physical productivity. For others, it's mental productivity. The answer, again, you guessed it, is let's pay attention to sleep hygiene and start working on a preventative model rather than an intervention model. Sleeping less than 7 hours per night, this is what I was talking about, has been associated with increased inflammation, specifically measured by high sensitivity C-reactive protein. Now, C-reactive protein is the primary biomarker for inflammation, especially cardiac inflammation. So it's one of the ways to say that the heart or the cardiovascular system is under duress. Sleep happens to be one of the ways that we can modulate our response to inflammation, including as it relates to our cardiovascular system. Blood sugar issues, those that do not sleep well or sleep less than 7 hours per night, meaning 17 to 18 hours of wakefulness, will have blood sugar issues to the tune of better than 40% reduction in insulin sensitivity and a rising, an increase by 30% of their fasting blood sugar levels. As a result of this, they see lower loss, or they see lower sex drive. They see a loss of lean muscle mass, especially as they age. Going back to those numbers I referred to, that lack of slow wave sleep often will lead to issues with aging, productivity, physical and mental metabolism or mental support, right? Cognitive well-being is often, as this is referred to. Your muscles dictate the volume of your brain, the reaction time and recovery in the brain. So those things like a loss of sleep and a lack of physical activity together are a double whammy when it comes to cognitive health or brain aging. Excess weight around the middle, um, that's something that comes on faster than I think people appreciate. While they're trying to target their calories, we maybe need to be talking to them about targeting their sleep. One of the reasons why this is so powerful to target your sleep over quality of calories, and what you didn't hear me say is forget about the food that you're eating. I'm just saying that derangement in sleep has a metabolic impact accelerated to that of poor eating habits. It takes decades for your dietary habits to cause harm. It literally only causes days for a poor night's sleep to start to create hormonal chaos in the body, to the tune of elevated ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, and a decrease in the feeling fed hormone, which is referred to as leptin. Now, one of the things to pay attention to is that your fat or your adipose tissue is highly communicative, and it does this through chemical signals called adipokines or fat cell signaling. And leptin is a good guy when it comes to fat cell signaling. It signals other fat cells to stop maturing, to stop duplicating, to stop increasing in size. But if you do not get a good night's sleep, not only do you put a gag over leptin so that it cannot tell other fat cells not to get big or duplicate, it also will not compete with a hunger hormone called ghrelin. The solution to both of these issues, elevated ghrelin and low leptin, is a better night's sleep. The next in line is good exercise. Individuals that exercise increase another hormone in the body that can compete with ghrelin, a hunger hormone. So when we look at people's response to exercise, we find that that goes hand in hand with a good night's sleep. Some people think that they just really like tore it up and that they're exhausted, when in fact they have shifted the needle when it comes to these hormones and they're getting a better night's sleep. They're not just falling and hitting the pillow and falling asleep because of their extra physical work and demand. They've literally changed the ratio of these hormones by utilizing exercise, and now they are getting a better night's sleep. So let's figure out your personal inventory. What's keeping you up at night counting sheep? Maybe it is too much stress. If you don't sleep at night, your body will boost its stress hormones, making it far more difficult for you to achieve a better night's sleep. Some people will refer to this as a fragmented night's sleep. they'll say that they don't have trouble falling asleep, quite frankly, because they are exhausted from all the stress during the day, but they're unable to stay asleep at night. And that has a lot to do not with these hunger hormones, but the way stress hormones, cortisol specifically, works in the body. When cortisol levels are high, melatonin is low, right? So when we start to introduce other things into the hormone cycle that also disrupt melatonin, like artificial light, digital devices like a TV in the bedroom, a tablet, a phone, even blue light from your alarm clock or your watch. These are things that can disrupt melatonin in a stressed individual enough that they never create that peak to help them not just fall asleep, but maybe more importantly, stay asleep. And added stress throughout the day has kept their cortisol levels high. And as a result of that, it was even harder for their melatonin to kind of come over that bump. And this is a continuous cycle of elevated cortisol, lower melatonin. What you should know is that over time, low melatonin levels only lead to not just more issues with cortisol being elevated, but melatonin is a brilliant antioxidant for the brain. And so when we think of cognitive ability, when we think of reaction time, when we think of memory, these are all things where melatonin played a critical role in the health of the brain. You know where else melatonin plays a critical role? In the health of the gut. Have you ever had someone say to you that they feel anxious and they'll touch their stomach? Right? So we need to also appreciate that when there's stress here, right? And we often will ask as practitioners, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Did the stress start here and I can't get it out of here? Or did the stress perception start here and now I'm feeling it physically here? Well, the solution, better night's sleep and elevate your melatonin, right? Which brings us to caffeine. What are some of the other hormonal disruptors? Caffeine has a half-life of 6 to 7 hours, which means um, an individual that is having a cup of coffee, which is just about 80 milligrams of caffeine, at noon will have half of that still circulating in their body at midnight that night, right? So what we're looking at is a half-life of 6 to 7 hours. So half again as much in 7 hours, half again of that in another 6 hours, meaning a quarter of that caffeine is still circulating in the body at midnight. Caffeine is thermogenic. It's not just initiator of excitatory responses or stimulation. It also happens to be thermogenic. And when we do not lower our temperature at night, right, we do not end up having a good night's sleep. So there's even some very practical things you can do about sleeping temperature to help you get a good night's sleep. The first of which is don't take thermogenic herbs, don't take thermogenic or stimulating drinks before bed. How many of you, be honest, have a cup of coffee at the end of dinner? There are a lot of people that's part of their ritual. Maybe they are able to say no to desserts after dinner when they're out to dinner, but maybe they're not saying no to that cup of coffee. Maybe that's the way that they have their social hour with people that are eating sugar, right? What about that hyperstimulation? Well, it's definitely impacting your melatonin. It's impacting actually a number of different photoreceptors in the back of the eye that would prevent you from getting a good night's sleep. What I think people don't always pay attention to is the numerous ways that they get overly stimulated. And there are a lot of people that will tell me that they turn their TV off or they don't turn their TV on at all, but don't realize how much YouTube, Facebook, even Netflix that they watch on a tablet or a phone, and don't appreciate that as screen time. Sometimes because it's work related, right? And then this half of the night, it is their relaxation time and they need to decompress, but they'll tell me, I didn't turn on the TV. And so then we have to kind of uncover, where are the other places where you're getting some of this stimulation, because we need to understand that neurotransmitters that help us feel alert and productive during the day cannot be in any elevated state at night if we want to fall asleep. And so I want to talk to you about another good cadence that we need to pay attention to. We've talked about leptin and ghrelin. We've talked about cortisol and melatonin, right? Now I want to talk to you about norepinephrine. Some people would refer to it as adrenaline, and then serotonin. Well, these are in direct opposition to each other. And while it is absolutely critical for the health of the brain and the health of the body, the health of reaction time in the brain, that we have a balance of both of them. You don't want too much of one and not enough of the other. But norepinephrine, as an excitatory neurohormone, tells the brain to keep us alert and focused. It's one reason why people reach for coffee drinks, and another reason why I tell people to reach for amino acids like those that are found in Turn Up, because we get some of the same balance and alertness, productivity that you would otherwise get from a caffeinated beverage without having a quarter of a cup of coffee in your body at midnight and your temperature's elevated, right? But one of the benefits to using amino acids for brain excitation instead of caffeine for brain excitation, or other amines for brain excitation, is that these amino acids can easily transition themselves into serotonin. Serotonin is a hormone that is related to relaxation, calm, healthy perceptions, right? And so what we want is a balance of both mental focus and mental relaxation. And amino acids tend to be one of the better ways that you can do that. Just the right amount of serotonin can help you achieve sleep. But if you are overly stressed, you'll burn through your serotonin too quickly, meaning that you want to replace some of the building blocks of serotonin, things like amino acids, B vitamins, magnesium, so that you make sure you have a good, what I refer to as WELL, a savings account, let's do it like that, of the building blocks for serotonin, so you can call on them when necessary, because the smallest amount of norepinephrine will produce wakefulness, that kind of alertness. And that's why it's important to use things like amino acids to create sleep, over things like sedatives, which do not counter or balance the norepinephrine and the serotonin. At the end of the day, our goal should be to consume foods that are helpful, that allow our body to have this balance of norepi and serotonin. Some things that come to mind right out of the gate are going to be things like avocado, nuts and seeds, bananas. These are all great ways to start feeding in to a good amino acid pool that allows you to create a healthy night's sleep, but also stay productive throughout the day. We are looking to sync up your cells' clocks. Every one of the hormones we've talked about, brain chemicals, as well as their cofactors, which is why I bring amino acids into the play here, need to be in balance for your cells' individual clocks to run on time and in sync with each other, right? So we're going to focus on what supports melatonin production and what inhibits melatonin production. A key player in the body's rhythm, circadian rhythm, syncing up those cells, is to regulate melatonin, because melatonin in turn regulates hundreds of genes and the way they express. One of the things that we want to pay attention to is that increased melatonin production is tied to day and night cycles. And so we want to pay attention to creating a healthy environment for melatonin. This means when the sun goes down, only lamp light goes on. Don't let overhead lights go on. That kind of cadence, that kind of incandescence is what I'm trying to say. That type of bright light, artificial light, stimulates photoreceptors where we're not able to create melatonin healthfully. But that dimmer light, that lamp light, that covered and muted light tends to be less offensive to photoreceptors in the eyes and allow melatonin to slowly start to creep up. Melatonin's greatest influence, of course, is light. So we want to pay attention to sleep cycles, and meaning that if we are a grave shift worker, that we work odd hours, that we think of additional ways through supplementation, healthy diet, and stress and relaxation to allow melatonin to keep or manage a peak, right? We also want to make sure that we pay attention to any kind of light pollution. People will follow the right directions for melatonin increase by using lamplight, but then don't appreciate that they may have a motion sensor light on the back of the house where the bedroom is, and that light can come into the bedroom and influence their healthy night's sleep, leading to a fragmented night's sleep. We find that the same individuals may feel like they're doing all the right things front of house, but when they go to bed, what I'm going to refer to as back of house, aren't taking other neurostimulatory devices out of the bedroom, like a TV set, a clock with bright neon green or blue light, and that they continue to look at their phone before they go to bed, or a tablet. Many individuals will read on a tablet, and that is not the place to be doing it, right? If you do read on a tablet, you want to create a low light tablet, and you want to be doing that in a living room or a reading room. You don't want to be doing that in your bedroom. Your bedroom is meant for sleep, and your bedroom is meant for sex. So you do not want to add in a bunch of other activities in that room, confusing the cells, confusing our clock, right? We need to make sure that we are sending the right signals, and we know that when we go to that bedroom, it is time to go to bed, right? But melatonin secretion goes way beyond helping us get a good night's sleep. It also, in preparation for a good night's sleep, suppresses insulin. And this is why it's such a powerful way to talk about obesity, is through a healthy night's sleep. Because if your insulin levels are suppressed, you have little defense when your blood sugars go up. But now think about the way people eat today, and quite frankly, the way they sleep today. Their hormones may be doing what they're supposed to be doing to help an individual go to sleep and suppress that insulin. But if you don't go to sleep, you eat late at night, you eat sugary foods late at night, your insulin is not in a position to be able to help you manage that blood sugar. And now we're going to start to have bigger issues with sleep habits. We're going to have bigger issues with, again, stress hormones, or just this hormonal chaos that happens as a result of what? Our melatonin being low and our sugar being high. If our stress is high, there's a good chance that our cortisol is high, and therefore our demand for sugar is high. But when melatonin tries to help us get a good night's sleep and suppress that insulin, we find ourselves with this disparate place with our hormones, all because we're not getting a good night's sleep or paying attention to mindfulness that will help us manage our stress. And that just leads to an elevation in our hunger hormones, or a decrease in our feel fed or feel full hormones. And that hormone is called leptin. Getting a poor night's sleep means that leptin levels are even lower. So individuals that carry extra weight, whether it's due to a poor night's sleep, a poor diet, or poor exercise habits, tend to have a harder time controlling their leptin, making supplementation a powerful place to be to repair metabolism. The first step, though, is to create an environment where you can get a good night's sleep, because individuals that do not sleep well end up being leptin insensitive. Blood sugar. Now, that's an enormous issue. Chronic elevated glucose, we've already noticed, plays a role in elevated stress, elevated hormones. Ultimately, we end up seeing that cortisol, leptin, all of these things are playing tug of war in the body. You may be surprised to find out that your blood sugars being elevated is not just an issue with your blood sugars being elevated, but also may affect brain volume. Fasting blood glucose is linked to loss in brain volume, memory, and even cognition. cortisol. Now, we've kind of beat this to death. We understand that cortisol is an enormous issue, right? Did you know it also suppresses your immunity? It also suppresses your ability to manage inflammation. Ultimately, melatonin and cortisol have to be in a healthy range and in balance with one another to maintain overall health. How do you manage this? How do you put it all together? We're going to focus on optimizing a sleep rhythm. We're going to focus on targeted low inflammation diet, and we're going to focus on getting the proper balance of amino acids. We're going to reduce oxidative stress and energy, or what's referred to as mitochondrial decline, by making sure not only do we get good nutrients on board, but that we create an environment where melatonin can be a super brain antioxidant for us. I want you to work on maintaining blood vascular fitness as well as muscular fitness by adding in a fitness routine. But we're going to start with being metabolically flexible before we ask you to be physically flexible. And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right nutrients on board to recover and relax. So your first step is create a healthy sleep routine. From there, we're going to turn down the lights and the temperature at night. Lower temperatures at night improve production of sleep hormones and can reduce concerns that we have with fragmented sleep. We're going to remove the TV from the bedroom because we know that blue light or light pollution interferes with our ability to create melatonin, and it only wreaks havoc on other hormones, elevating blood sugar potentially, and definitely elevating norepinephrine and cortisol. We're going to practice some deep breathing. We're going to work on rhythmic breathing to create a better space. Some people refer to this as a better body awareness, a mindfulness. Regardless, this is the right environment to create a healthy anti-stress environment. And then we can talk about pairing other botanicals that repair metabolism on top of it, but you've got to have the right foundation. The benefit to deep rhythmic breathing is it can manifest an enormous change in as little as 3 months. For everything else, there's supplementation, magnesium, and I would say many people will pair this with calcium. TLS Acts or Bliss, both anti-stress or adaptogenic formulations. Turn down getting the proper magnesium, calcium, and amino acids paired together to help you get a good night's sleep. The benefits of melatonin in a supplement form in prime dreams, and many people will utilize cannabiquin by supporting the phytocannabinoid or the endocannabinoid system. Many people find relaxation that allows them to get a good night's sleep without fragmented hours. Magnesium is critical to performance of the brain, critical to sleep enhancement in the body and the brain, because it is the major equalizer between melatonin, serotonin, and dopamine. It is the equalizer between I've got to get stuff done during the day and I have the capacity to relax at night. Isotonic magnesium contains 2 different types of magnesium, magnesium citrate and magnesium glycinate, both critically important for the balance of neurotransmitter production so that we have productivity throughout the day and the ability to relax at night. Magnesium is one of the first lines of defense towards a better night's sleep. For people that are just looking to take or put metabolism on the right road, they're going to use magnesium. Sometimes people will need something stronger, and that's why we've created adaptogenic formulas as well as the isotonic essentials turn down. Now, one of the things that I want us to pay attention to when it comes to magnesium is that magnesium is critical and intimately linked to melatonin's production. Certain forms like those that we have put in the isotonic magnesium, specifically the citrate and the glycinate form, are considered some of the best forms of magnesium, and that also allow magnesium to be very gentle on the stomach. Some of the benefits, of course, is getting a good dose at 400 milligrams. This product is taken 1 cap in the morning and 1 cap at night. For those that find that they do well on just 1 cap, it's recommended that they take that cap at night. For those that need more muscular performance or muscular relaxation, they'll find that they do very well by using magnesium during the day. Ultimately, the goal of magnesium is to help you achieve natural sleep, right? The goal is to augment that natural neurotransmitter production with the benefits of magnesium that your day to day life is likely depleting from you. If you're anything like this woman, you need more magnesium because just the act of being in front of that blue light, um, that close to her eyes, is depleting or running through her savings accounts way too quickly. And that means she's not likely to create serotonin in a proper amount to help her get a good night's sleep. If she can't make serotonin with the help of magnesium and other neurotransmitters, then she's going to have a hard time not just managing serotonin and perception of the stressors around her, but she'll never be able to make melatonin. See, L-tryptophan and L-tryptophan and magnesium collectively support the body's production of serotonin. And then from there, serotonin ultimately makes melatonin. And the smallest bit of stimulation, like that TV or that iPad, the tablets can interfere with our ability to make melatonin. If we're overly stressed, we'll use our magnesium and L-tryptophan to manage the stress in our lives and not our sleep cycle. And that's why it's imperative, in addition to a healthy diet, you also consider adding amino acids like L-tryptophan in a supplement form. It's been shown to be beneficial in sleep complaints, especially in improving sleep quality or improving that slow wave, deep sleep, and REM sleep cycles. Many individuals that find that sleep doesn't come easily to them because they wake up hungry. And they do find that L-tryptophan, clinical studies do show that L-tryptophan can be hugely beneficial in managing appetite or sugar cravings. In addition to that, because so many women, especially menopausally, but men as well, through andropause or what's often referred to as somatopause, they'll tend to notice that their hormones are so fluctuating that they get fragmented sleep. And this is another place where L-tryptophan can be of benefit to them. It's an essential amino acid that can manufacture serotonin. That ultimately is going to send some of those calming signals to the brain so that melatonin can go up. Norepinephrine is nowhere in sight, and we don't have to worry about that pesky cortisol. Now, melatonin doesn't get created from L-tryptophan alone. You need to have a diet full of alkalinizing vegetables, right? So that you get your calcium and your magnesium, your iron and your B vitamins. We want to make sure that you're getting plenty of B6 and vitamin C, not just magnesium and calcium, to meet your metabolic needs or ultimately your melatonin needs, right? And that's why we created Turn Down the way we did, with all of these critical components to help L-tryptophan help you get a better night's sleep. We built the product to target 3 areas of sleep reduction so individuals would see less time to fall asleep, right? And improved sleep duration, less sleep fragmentation, and supporting restorative sleep, meaning that they are more likely to wake up feeling refreshed or ready for the day. When you need additional support, this is where adaptogenic herbs come in, or maybe even supporting the endocannabinoid system comes in. And that's where we have cannabiquin. Individuals that find themselves needing extra space, right, or extra support are going to be those people that when I ask, can you go back over the last 3 weeks and really take a good inventory of your sleep? They'll say, there's not a night in the last 3 weeks where I feel like I got a good night's sleep. These people might need added support. Individuals that are going through a difficult time, may have a lot of mental, emotional instability, may need added support to get a good night's sleep. Those that don't just wake up with carbohydrate cravings would kind of define their eating habits as one big carbohydrate craving. These people will do very well with adaptogenic herbs, especially if one of the ways that they respond to carbohydrates is by falling asleep when there are consequences to falling asleep, meaning during a work day, right? Where you're losing productivity throughout the day, but you don't get a good night's sleep at night. What can you expect from restorative sleep? Mental well-being, the ability to be more productive the next day. Multitasking is going to be your middle name. Recall, memory, and rebalance. Ultimately, we want to focus on a better night's sleep today so that we can have healthy brain volume and a better night's sleep tomorrow. We want to always be stimulating the brain as well as the body, which means exercise is imperative, exercise for the body as well as exercise for the brain. So those word puzzles, crossword puzzles, mind teasers, anything that stimulates the brain, start reading. And there is evidence that even picking up a book and reading a book stimulates the brain in a different way than reading on a device does. And so considering that blue light issue, and those of us that like to read before bed, I'm gonna beg you to get yourself to a used bookstore and get yourself a great book. And that is how ultimately together we can help improve your sleep and repair your metabolism. Thanks for spending Health Talk Tuesdays with me, Dr. D. I hope to see you back here next week where we will bring you another Health Talk Tuesday topic. Until then, go be healthy, go be brilliant.